Carter has been driving the kids to school for about a month, and I'm still following him every day. So that kind of defeats the purpose of having a kid driving your kids. I'm just paying for 2 tanks of gas to get the kids to school.
How's he doing?
Well, let's see. Earlier this week, they called him out of class after lunch to tell him his car was still turned on. So,
is he driving a diesel?
No. But, he still had enough gas to get home. So that's pretty interesting. And he was embarrassed. So,
well, but so far, no wreck.
No wrecks.
Hasn't hit anything.
So I did go through, we did go through the new traffic circles, which are great on Benton Road.
Yeah.
The cut through. Mm-hmm. And I was riding with them, and I've ridden with them through those twice, and both times I end up screaming and he ends up getting defensive. And then I said, "Hey, didn't you go here the other day when you drove to the movies to your friends for the first time?" He's like, "Yeah," and everybody honked at me. I didn't yield. So I'm like, he's like, "I still don't understand." So, anyways,
when we were traveling, maybe last fall, we had gone to Ireland, and it was the best trip of my life, but the worst in that I had to drive on the left side of the road because I'd never done that before.
Okay.
And all they do is traffic circles. That's it.
Yes.
And so that was really, really tough to go in and say, okay, remember you got to go to the left, and then you got to stay to the left, and then you got to yield. And so listen, I know Carter's pain.
Yes.
I know where he's at.
Well, another guest that we need to have on, Carlotta Brown, she's a huge fan of traffic circles. Huge fan. She's the Bossier City planner.
Yeah.
Big fan of them. So we might see more coming.
Okay. Well, look, I like it.
It's funny. She had told me, she had given me her case on it, and then we drove through Arizona, and this stretch between Phoenix going up north to Flagstaff, it's like a 3-hour drive, and it is literally, you go through like 200 traffic circles. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. But it's flowing.
It's flowing. It's flowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, you can't set a good cruise, you just can't get a good cruise going.
If your son, you can.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he just
go through.
Just rolls right through.
Just go through it.
It's very efficient for him.
Yeah. Well, that's there were, he grew up playing Mario Kart, and there are some good shortcuts ramping over the traffic circle, over the fountain in the middle, instead of going around.
All I learned from driving, I learned from Mario Kart. Yeah. This is the generation where they are today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I bet that, you're looking for the turtle shells to toss them.
Yeah.
Banana
Somebody cuts you off.
That's right. When you
if I had that purple shell.
Yeah, when you throw that banana peel out now, you're kind of looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah,
like you're looking.
Yeah, you do.
You're looking to spit out.
Is that littering?
I always think it's not unless you have the little sticker on it.
Oh, okay. Because then you have a little paper.
Yeah. Can we get somebody to weigh in?
Clean off the glue residue and the sticker.
Yeah. Can we get somebody to weigh in on if that is littering? I don't think it is, personally.
Yeah. Mario wouldn't teach that.
No, but I'd like to transition if we can. Okay. Today, I am attending the funeral of my paternal grandfather, Henry Hayes Johnson.
Okay.
So my middle name is Hayes, and it's spelled this funny way, Hayse. That was his middle name. It's my dad's middle name. It's my middle name. It's my daughter's middle name.
Okay.
And so, this is he was 91. So he lived a very long, healthy life. If you will remember, busy listeners will remember my grandmother about a year ago passed away.
Yep.
And so he was kind of holding on for, an extra year. But, it's tough. When you lose that person that you've been married to 66 years for. But I was going to read a little bit about his life. He joined the Air Force when he was very young. He served in Morocco, North Africa, and then later in North Carolina as a radio dispatcher.
First of all, you got to be brave to join the Air Force back then.
Yeah.
Because those planes,
Well, right.
pretty new invention.
Right. So, but serving in Morocco and North Africa, I mean, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Right. And what's crazy? He talked a little bit about it, but he never really talked much about it.
What year was he born?
Let's see. He was born in
91.
He was 91. So 1933.
33.
Yep. So let's see. So after he got out of the military, he took some classes at Centenary. He joined Monroe Business Machines as a senior field technician, where he worked for 40 years.
Wow.
40 years fixing their business machines. Who knows? Who knows what those machines were?
Like early computers?
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, 66 years of marriage, 4 children. And I got to tell you, I only knew him as a retired guy, so I didn't really know him in his working era. But he had this incredible quiet spirit. He was a very quiet guy. Mm-hmm. He's very humble. Like that's one of the biggest things you could say about him was the guy was super humble, hardworking, salt of the earth kind of guy. He just wanted to go out and like look at cows and drive around the pasture. Mm-hmm. My favorite memory of him is maybe I was in high school and we were driving around in his truck out in the pasture. And we were talking about something, I don't even know what, it's not like a big flowing conversation back and forth with a guy. But he made this statement, I don't know what we were talking about, but he made this statement that one monkey doesn't stop the show. And that was really like his life. In that moment, I kind of knew, this was how many years ago? It would have been 30 years ago or something. Mm-hmm. In that moment, I knew like he's good to die. Like he's good. Yeah. Like one monkey doesn't stop show, man. And it's always stuck with me. And so today I'm kind of going to the funeral, kind of like, he was right. Like he's good. He was ready.
Yeah.
But when we think about, business, and we think about all these amazing people that come on here and they do this great stuff for the community. Mm-hmm. They do this great stuff, these great businesses. They accomplish these big things. We've had some really heavy hitters on here. But I think I'm going to today in this moment, I'm thinking about my grandpa's words of one monkey doesn't stop the show. How does that hit you?
Well, it is, it's interesting because I've actually been working with some of my team on and through coaching of in the moment, we feel like if we remove one person from our operation, the whole show is going to stop. Mm-hmm. And then we get into a fear mindset of, well, this one person's going to implode the company if we don't, so we'll put up with some stuff.
100%.
And the truth is, usually removing that person is a benefit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and we've talked about that before. But yeah, no, I even tell my team this. I'm like, hey, listen, sure, I own the companies and I started the companies, but the companies are bigger than I am. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So even me, yes. I'm expendable as well. Yeah. We all are.
That's right.
At this point.
That's right.
And so,
it's humbling.
Yeah.
It's humbling.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think about my other grandfather who started Ivy's, and, he died very young. I want to say 52. And I think about this all the time. Anybody, if I hear somebody who's like, oh man, I can't do it without me, which I rarely hear, but if I do, mm-hmm. this thought immediately pops in my head of like, okay, we replaced my grandpa. Mm-hmm. We can replace anybody else, Absolutely. Myself included.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it goes beyond you. And that one person who you're worried about replacing, or if they say they're leaving, or in the back of your mind, you need to move them off the bus.
Yeah.
Life goes on, man.
Well, and I think a couple things. One, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, right? I remember having to fire my first employee. Mm-hmm. Couldn't sleep, had anxiety, right? And it does become easier. And then what I think it also does is it gives you this confidence moving forward, right? When you get in this mindset of this fear mindset of, well, what are we going to do if this person leaves or if we let them go? Mm-hmm. And the truth is, you can look back and say, well, this happened this time and we grew from it this time, and you have this confidence of, we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. And I find in these instances, whether it's somebody who you need to move off the bus or sometimes people who are just leaving, you got a better than 50% chance, at least in my estimation, of things actually getting better. Mm-hmm. If, you can bring on the next person is a good fit, you got a pretty good chance of things getting better.
Yes.
Particularly if it's somebody you need to let go off the bus.
Yes. Well, I think that in order to keep someone who is not a good fit or is not in line with the company and doing what they're doing, you're sacrificing, right? So you're either sacrificing by making accommodations for this person, right? You're either sacrificing the overall camaraderie or spirit in the culture. And then sometimes to keep people, you're sacrificing your profits. Right. 100%. And that's what the conversations that I've had recently is, hey, we got to make a deal for this person, or we got to give this person a raise because they think they deserve more. And so when you're in a fear mindset, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to give you more of my margin.
Yeah. Rather
than saying, okay, we'll go find another job that's going to give you the money you're making here.
And there's a market approach to that, right? It's not just as simple as looking at it and going, this person thinks they're undervalued, and you go, okay, we'll just get out of here.
Sure.
I mean, where they sit in the market. I mean, right now I'm thinking about, maybe an instance a little while back where somebody said, hey, I need to go to this level. And at first it was like this initial shock of, oh no, like, whoa. And then as more information is rolled out, the offer that they say they have is not the offer.
Yeah.
It's not full time. It's not, it doesn't include this. It's not this. It's like not the same hours. It's not, it's all this, but I need you to meet me here. Yeah. And so, so there's a market. Where are they in the market? Mm-hmm. Because if that person can go out and find, and with that value and get it, then more power to them. Yeah. But, like you said, maybe the deal that you have for them is better than, upon reflection, there's more than meets the eye.
Yeah. And I think that for me, I have enough employees and enough businesses. I can my first step is to just do an internal review, right? So I'm like, well, out of all the people I employ and the, seriousness of their responsibilities and the amount of revenue they're in charge of, what are they getting paid versus this person asking for a raise? Then I can look out into the public or call other business owners. Hey, you have a similar company, you have a similar position. What are you paying them?
Yeah.
Right. And, and so that's that's definitely it. And then here's another thing that I found is a lot of times the money conversation or the stress has nothing to do with the business. It is a personal issue, right? They made some bad financial decisions.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out how they can get more money. And the truth is, your raise is never going to solve that problem.
That's right. I mean, it absolutely can be that. It can also be people are trying to move forward in life. I feel like right now, we're going through a little bit of churn right now, and it's tough. I feel like the economy has put extra stresses on people when, most people are just barely cleared,
Sure.
barely getting by.
Sure.
And if your revenue is this and your expenses are this personally, and that those expenses continue to just climb. I think that has a lot of people on their back, on their back foot, looking at going, wow, my grocery bill is this, my rent is this, and I got to make more money. What am I going to do? We got this gig economy. It's like, well, am I going to go Uber? Am I going to go deliver groceries? Am I going to go do all these things? I heard one guy say that he heard about somebody delivering groceries making $100K, and I'm thinking, well, I could do that. I could get in on some of that.
So I've just been anybody that it comes at. I've just trained my team. If anybody says something about our pricing, just say tariffs. That's the new buzzword, right?
Right.
Well, because it's also and there is some truth to it, but if I'm looking at our cost of goods, Most of the stuff we're using, we're buying supplies we're buying is not is imported.
Yeah.
And they probably will go up in price, but they've gone up in price anyways, right, over the past 5 years. But then you also think of the cost of insurance, just the cost of our operations.
Yeah.
That's what I have two buzzwords. I'm like telling workers' comp, general liability, and then now the tariffs, supplies, we just got to raise our prices.
Well, and it's so frustrating. And I cannot remember a period in my life where costs have just continued to increase over a 5-year period. If you think about the pandemic and the supply shock and the huge volatility there and the, supply chain, it's like it's all supply chain. And then we get through this hurdle, the economy kind of flattens a little bit. So you're like, okay, maybe we'll start to see a little air come out of the tire. Maybe we'll start to see, because I sell consumer goods. Yeah. And maybe we'll start to see things that went from $12 to $25 come back down. Maybe there's $16 now. And so as soon as we clear this hurdle, now it's like Liberation Day tariffs, and we're going to slap a 500% tariff on China. It's like, what is going to happen to all these consumer goods that come from China, like Apple? Is Apple just going to pack up from China and come to Arkansas and set up shop? Like, is that going to happen?
I think that's the plan. We'll see. I think, and look, and I'm not an economist, but, anytime you print as much money we did as in the pandemic, free money.
Right.
I mean, there is going to be a result to that, and it will last years.
Right.
Right. Inflation and all that. So
the tangible effects that it has on businesses, like you're saying, the cost, but it's more than that, because it's in your, with your employees are feeling pressure that is coming from their rising personal costs. So now they're coming back, and part of our churn, I know, is directly related to this idea. I don't think we've mistreated these folks. I don't think we've been a bad place to work for these folks. I think that ultimately the pressures of today's economy is more overwhelming than what we can do selling consumer goods and commodities.
So we would call that the trickle up effect.
Is it a trickle or
But instead of trickle down, right? The economy, and then it trickles down to the person, the bottom of the totem pole employee.
Yeah.
Now it's their pain is trickling up to us, right? As business owners.
Right.
And now, well, if we have to get more revenue to keep people employed, we're going to have to raise prices.
So you would raise prices, right? But there's a market component to that too, right?
Well, and I think it's great because it leads into really what our topic is today.
And that is?
Well, you had, in a previous episode, you made a comment about a Warren Buffett interview you had seen. And that really has stuck with me. And I've shared it with all of my companies, because since then I've been in meetings with them. But you said that there was a reporter and asked Warren, hey, what's your number one piece of advice for a small business owner? And he replied, it's not even just a small business, but this applies to any business.
Yes.
Number one focus should be to delight your customers.
Yeah.
And so, and that's been sticking with me, is because as a business owner, obviously I'm looking at revenue, I'm looking at a lot of things, but if that is our number one focus, and he said, if your number one focus is delighting your customers, everything else is going to fall into place. And that's been big, So then it's like, so now what's churning in my mind is what habits, like I spoke to my real estate agents earlier this week, what habits, I said there are two things you should be focusing on every day for your habits, your processes, what you're doing every day. One, what am I doing to drive revenue? And two, what am I doing to delight customers? And then I was thinking through this, right? If you think of a Venn diagram, and one of the circles is delight your customers, one of them is driving revenue. I feel like the more you delight your customers, the more those two circles get closer and closer together. And that middle is just a huge amount of momentum, or you can call it whatever it is. But to eventually to where those circles overlap completely, to where all of your focus is delighting customers, which in turn is driving revenue. Does that make sense?
The Venn diagram I'm not following, but I do understand what you're saying.
All right, so
I do get it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's really.
I don't think that's how those work, but I'm not gonna pull us over there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about delighting your customers. Some of the delight that you can provide customers is free.
Yeah.
Much of the delight is free. Mm-hmm. Much of it is not. So when you think about delighting customers, what Warren Buffett said is absolutely true. And I think that we can talk about the other thread of this conversation is like what happens when companies are bought and the decisions that go into what happens.
Sure.
But for today, for right now, let's think about this. When you think about delighting a customer, what is something that is free? And then what are things that are going to cost your company to do?
Yep.
How do you break those apart?
Oh, well, that's a good question. It kind of goes back to the conversation we just had, is that to overcome price increases, right? That's the really, for a small business like us, the battlefield really has to be with our customer service, right? Because that's where we can outpace our competition, the big box stores, those type of things, right? Yeah. And so, I think that it's free to smile.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's free to say thank you.
Yes.
It's free to say please.
Yes.
Right? Those are just free, simple things. Make eye contact is free.
Yeah.
Showing up on time.
Not stare at your phone like when the customers are walking by you.
Fulfilling a commitment. Right? Showing up to the appointment.
Yeah.
These are all just free things to do. Right? I don't think, is winning an ice chest for signing up for a new bank account nice? Sure. But I'd much rather have good customer service at this bank than to get a free ice chest once.
Did you win an ice chest? Or?
No.
Okay.
But I'm always wondering when they're giving out free ice chest to new customers. I'm like, well, I've been with you since I was 16 years old. Where's my...
Nothing. Where's my ice chest?
Where's my ice chest?
Yeah.
So, I would say I built my real estate company focused on building relationships, customer service, getting referrals from that. You can call it delighting your customer. And it was just, I spent no money on advertising. Most of the stuff I did, right, it's just this phantom product I had that I built around who I was, my position in the marketplace, and all of my connections. So what was valuable to my people were the connections I had, the referrals I sent. And so there was really no cost to it.
Yeah.
Sure, every once in a while I would go bring them a gift card or something like that, or pretty low cost.
So caring a little bit more. You can put a lot of it under just caring more about your customer.
Sure.
Being more appreciative, being more thankful, being more gracious.
Emotional intelligence, seeing felt needs, meeting felt needs. You think of delighting your customer, you think of social media. Social media engagement, liking a post, that doesn't cost any money.
You don't like my post, so what?
I'm not in your algorithm.
Could you comment every once in a while? Give me a little boost there.
Yes, I will.
You know what really helps the algorithm? I watched this video about this the other day. Is shares. So you see this video like Billy Strings and he's playing crazy, and you're like, I'm gonna send this to my boy, and you text it to him or whatever, just like check this out. The algorithm really, really prizes that. Because it thinks, oh, we got something here. Because if you're going to take your time out to send it to somebody, they think this is good.
Yes. So
please, Bizzie fans, if you see something that you like, send it to your friend. Or guess what? Send it to us.
Yeah.
Send it to us.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't even matter.
Yeah. The worst is when you put your phone in your pocket and you pull it out and you've accidentally liked an ad for like a vacuum cleaner. You're like, crap. Yeah. Here we go. A week of vacuum cleaners. Right.
Yeah. Delight your customer.
Get me back on track. And it's interesting. So when we think of one of the books I read early on, which I'm not saying, there are pros and cons to this book and to this leader in business, but Jack Welch, who is famed for turning General Electric around, right? He went in, it was a mess, disaster. and he kind of took this really hard-nosed approach to running the business, right? And a lot of that was focused on the people, right, what they were doing. But then the second big focus was just on profits. And so he literally just trimmed all the fat out of this company and turned it around. I think the most beneficial thing for me when I read the book was how he dealt with underperforming team members, which is great. And I still say go read it for that. Just the fact that he never fired anyone. He just kind of laid out expectations of what it's like to work here. But this turn to focus so hyper on profits, a lot of people would say that approach is really what the detriment to the focus of delighting your customers. And that, that was kind of a turning point. People took his model to maximize every single profit for your shareholders at the expense of customer service.
Yes. So there's a couple stats that are out there that I'm going to get a little bit wrong, but they certainly seem to be true in my experience. When a company is acquired, very few people stick around. Okay. And you start to think about that and you're like, well, why would people not stick around? Same place, same logo, same building. If you're an acquirer and you come in, you're savvy enough to look at the business and say, okay, with a couple of tweaks, I can make this more profitable.
Economy of scale.
Some of those are economy of scale, which means
knowledge of what has,
which means Barbara the bookkeeper. I don't need Barbara the bookkeeper because I've got Fran at corporate. And Fran can handle what Barbara was doing. So Barbara's going to go.
She's gone.
We have 3 managers. Well, you probably just need 1 manager. So these 2 managers are gone, right? So now there's other things like when you think about restaurants, I find this to be very true. If you're in a restaurant, you're going to look around and say, they were buying the premium artichokes, like the most expensive olive oil. Like Dominic's. I used to work at Dominic's way back when. He had some great quality ingredients that he put into that food. But if an acquirer comes in, they're going to look and say, we don't need to buy the most expensive artichokes. We can buy the Cisco value brand.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to change the recipe out. We're going to put that in. I think about a restaurant all the time called McAllister's. Are you familiar with McAllister's?
I've eaten a few loaded spuds there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I was in college way back when, there was a McAllister's very close to campus. My understanding of McAllister's was started by a family in Mississippi. So McAllister's was a big deal there. And I loved it because they had sweet teas. They were like this big. And they had these loaded spuds and they had all this stuff. And you were like, oh, this is great. I'm going to spend $12 here, but it's nice, right? People loved the restaurant. And then they sold it, and I don't know to who, but immediately you could feel that they had started pulling quality out of the ingredients. And maybe the team members didn't seem as engaged. They didn't seem to care. And if you go today, it's a much different experience than what I experienced in college with this restaurant where people would, like when church got out, the First Baptist Clinton people would be all over McAllister's. I mean, it would swamp. The parking lot was packed. People loved this place.
Yeah.
And today, I don't think the love is there.
Well, do you think that's where the shift, because like I always think of when I was in high school, I would say even high school into college, I would say even to like through 2010, if you wanted a nice steak, you were going to Outback.
Oh,
right. And you better get there at 5 o'clock or you're not getting a table.
Yeah.
Line out the door. People just waiting. Right.
Yeah.
You with me? You've had that experience?
Oh, my daughter's favorite restaurant is Outback.
And there's been obviously a shift. You can go to Outback at any time now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But now if you want to go to a local restaurant that has great food, like in our area, like a Fat Calf or a Zoozle, like you don't show up without a reservation. You're not getting a seat.
Right.
And I wonder if that really is this delighting your customer, effect
100%.
that was on there.
100%.
And so this shift has happened. And really what's probably happened, and I don't know this, but I would imagine these chained restaurants are probably owned by 3 companies, right? And they've just been bought up and bought up and bought up, right? Yes. I remember you're a fan of Whataburger.
I am a fan of Whataburger. Yeah.
I remember, 5 or 6 years. It's a Texas restaurant, right? Texas chain.
Yes.
And a few years ago, they sold to a company out of Chicago, and within a week, there was no fancy ketchup to be given.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but I haven't seen a huge change in Whataburger.
I got to tell you, because there's a billboard now in Bossier when I pull out from taking Piper to school. And I see like Lainey Wilson. She's their new spokesperson. Okay. And I just laugh so hard because I think that's the best. That's like the best marketing spokesperson. I love that fit. That's such a good move on their part.
Yeah. Post Malone with Canes.
Yeah. That's a
Lainey Wilson, Whataburger.
Right. Like she's perfect for it, right? Because you're like, she probably enjoys Whataburger every now and again. Yeah. It doesn't feel like, she doesn't feel like it's beneath her.
Yeah.
You're like, I can see her getting on with some the honey butter chicken biscuit every once in a while.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, but no, I think through that all the time. It's like, because like when I was growing up, we never went to a local restaurant. I mean, sure, you might go get breakfast at Strawn's every once in a while, the local diner. Yeah. Maybe a late night, you're trying to, you go to RJ's, right? A late night. But then, the big places came in. So I mean, we were hanging out at IHOP. We were doing all that. I mean, it was
Well, think about this. Just the market power that Applebee's and Chili's had. They were. I felt like they were so dominant. Like Chili's was
our date night.
It was
when we first got married.
Experience.
That's where we went.
I mean, it was an experience.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
The chips and sauce is great.
That's what the grilled chicken pasta skillet. What's the queso stuff that they had with the meat in it?
Oh yeah,
it's like great. Wolf chili and cheese.
And I know someone who was a bartender at the one on Erie Drive for a long time. And he's like, dude, I had regulars. I was making so much money as a bartender at Chili's. Yeah. Everybody get off work. That's where they were going.
Yeah. So what happened?
Yeah, I think that the you have decisions. Let me say it this way. I think the further away from the business, the practice that's taking place, the further away that those decisions are getting made, the worse it is, right? Yes. I mean, you think of it. And so I think of like, I was talking to a guy the other day and he got bought out by corporate, right? And he's like, man, I had so much control, so much momentum, and they told me I could keep all the control. He's like, within a month, I'm having to ask for $1 raise for one of my employees. And it took 3 weeks to get an answer. Yeah. And he's like, and then I decided I'm done.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not in it anymore.
Yes.
And I think that's really it. You just think of like, where's the decision maker? And I even talk about that like on a local basis. Like, I want a banker who I have his cell phone number and I can text. I want a CPA who I can text. Right. I want access to these things. I don't want, and it goes back and forth because, at the same time, I'm in this season where I'm like, well, I need to limit people's access to me. Right. And then it's like, you never really, so I don't know. I don't know if there's an easy answer. I do think that there's an art to the handoff, I would say. So whenever you're delighting customers and they have full access to you, right? But then you scale and now you have an assistant or someone answering the phone for you, right? And I think there's like a kind of this art of the handoff that people need as they scale.
Or it's empowerment.
Empowerment?
Yeah. So
to that employee?
It's empowerment to the employee or the manager or whoever to say, listen, my wishes, my desire is to delight this customer. Yeah. So don't get hung up on a $10 deal. Like make them happy. Make them happy.
And I think that's what I'm actually working through now is my frustration that I'm finding in certain areas in my operation is because that person needs to change their way of thinking. And I have this expectation, especially if you've been around me for a long time, you should think the way I think. But
how does that
that's
go?
Never going to happen, right? That's never going to happen. It will happen, but I think it has to be a conversation. Hey, your thinking's different than my thinking. Mm-hmm. Here's how you think. Here's how I think. And then you just start saying, all right, this is the old way of thinking. Yeah. This is now the new way of thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just kind of have to make it a plan. So, yeah, I mean, obviously you want anybody that's in charge of delighting customers or dealing with customers that are underneath your authority to think and respond the way you would.
Yes. Yes.
But that is not easy.
It's not easy. But, again, it's that detachment from, like you said, when corporate's miles and miles away versus when people are on the ground. You still are required. Your spirit is still required. Mm-hmm. And they need to feel that spirit often.
Can you think of a big business that does that well? If you're going to think, man, I have a good experience when I go into this place.
A big place? Chick-fil-A is the only one.
Chick-fil-A
that I can think of.
But their model's still hyper local.
Well, and part of the magic is, their decision to not allow the franchisee. It's the owner operator model. So there's literally ownership in every building. Mm-hmm. And that is the difference between the Chick-fil-A model.
Well, and like the requirements, right? Like these guys have to go and like be a manager at a place for years before they can apply and get approved. And there's a lot.
Well, the approval for the owner operator, but ultimately still, to me, it's the ownership in the building. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, and it's tough because Chick-fil-A will tell you like, hey, this is it. You're not going to run 8 locations. Mm-hmm. You're not going to go run side gigs. You're not going to do all this other stuff. This is your work. And if you're not happy with that, then this is not for you. But this is your sole focus. This building is your sole focus.
Did you, your new location in Blanchard, did you let anybody buy into that?
Buy into it?
Yeah.
What you mean?
Like ownership?
No, it's.
Have you ever thought of that?
Yes, I have.
I've thought of that too.
Mm-hmm. I have thought of that. I think that, part of it would be the necessity of the values alignment.
Yeah.
You're like me. You're kind of a control freak. Yeah. I don't come across as a control freak, but I am. Yeah. I very much love. I don't love lording control over people, but I love the idea that this is an extension of my vision.
Yeah.
This is an extension of my passion, and I want it to translate a certain way. So if somebody else came in, I wouldn't want to cede all of that to this other person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would want to make sure that the brand message stays where it is.
Yeah.
That's the control I'm talking about. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, so it's that's interesting. So to go back to this topic of delighting, your customer, man, it seems simple. What's difficult with delighting your customer is scaling and keeping that at the forefront.
How the magic blend?
Because there's no doubt if I'm in the room with a customer or even an upset customer, I know that I can navigate that situation to where we're in a good place when it's all said and done.
Yeah, hopefully. They'll pull out a gun or something.
Well, I think it's understood that not all customers can be delighted.
Well, that's true. And I go back to what your father-in-law said, which has honestly been one of the best things I've heard in business. Like, honestly, Eugene, shouts to you, wherever you are right now.
Here we go.
Is the customer is always precious. Mm. That has just been a revelation to me because it's not the customer's always right. That's not what he's saying.
Yeah.
But he's saying the customer is always precious, meaning rare or meaning hard to come by. Mm-hmm. So tread carefully when navigating these situations.
Yeah.
I love that. That is so good. Yep. Because if you just put a blanket statement of the customer is always right, you are priming your employees to be abused. Mm-hmm. Just like, hey, get ready, guys. You're about to get kicked in the face today. If the customer is always right, then just bow down and be walked all over. And that's not what he's saying. He's not saying that, but he is saying, be careful. Be careful with how you respond because that customer is precious and they're rare. And if the idea is that, well, we just gonna, get out of here. We don't like it, kicking customers out left and right.
Sure. And I feel like I see that more on a local level with industries that there's little competition.
Of course.
I see that a lot.
That's right.
There are a few companies, there are a few industries in town that there may be one or two options.
Yeah.
Right. and they have the worst customer service.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this is another part of this is all tied in. I'm seeing that from manufacturers in our industry. I got a letter the other day that said, hey, we're closing your account. You don't buy, $50,000 from us a year. I have this product in my house personally. I like the product. And they're saying, you don't buy enough. So you're done. And I talked to our co-op and they say, yeah, man, I wish I could tell our customers things like that sometimes. But the bigger these companies get, they're just not interested anymore. It's like, well, you're not important enough. You're not doing enough. You got to go. It's like, that's not delight.
No, it's not delight.
What is that?
It's profit driven.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. And, and obviously we need to pay attention to the profits. There's just a lot of factors into it. So I would love to say, hey, here's how you go about it. Here's the playbook for doing it. Right. Mm-hmm. But I think it just goes back to what Warren Buffett says. And that just needs to be your main focus. I will say, there was a stint in my time where I was in between kind of careers and I just needed a job and I went to work for a call center in town.
Oh, and I would have loved to have recordings of your phone calls.
Listen, they had a bonus structure that you got an extra $1 an hour if you they would audit your calls, right? And if you scored over 95%, you got that extra $1. Out of 40 employees on the floor, I'm the only one that got it every time. But what was interesting, and we were fixing Comcast, troubleshooting Comcast internet, right? And what's really funny is they one of the techniques is they said, if you can't solve it and you gotta send a technician out to make the customer happy, just say, hey, I want to try one last thing. I want to try one last thing and try to ping your modem. Hold on 1 second, and you just hit your space bar really loud.
My gosh!
Oh, that didn't do it either. Oh, that's usually the one that fixes it. We'll have to send somebody out.
Oh, wow!
So, but having said all of that, where was I going with this story?
Well, that job has been moved overseas, right? That job's gone.
I was going somewhere with this story. Hold on. The call center hitting the town.
Hang on. Let me try one more thing. Okay. I'm going to start using that.
I'm going to listen back to the episode, see where I was going with that. But just do that one more thing. No, okay. Oh, here's where I was going with. I remember during the training, them saying, "Hey, we were moving this call center somewhere, and we looked at there were 2 locations, and they said the reason, one might have been in Oklahoma, Arkansas. They said the reason was Shreveport, was because the study they did had Shreveport Bossier as being the friendliest people in their study they were doing." Okay. So you think of that, right? You think of delight your customer. I mean, there is something about Southern charm growing up in the South. Right. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. No, sir. And that is somewhat still kind of instilled in this. And so it's not a foreign concept, right? That you're not trying to teach someone who just, as Noah Kahn would say, I can't remember the actual phrase, but his song about, hey, forgive my bad attitude. Grew up in Vermont or something like that, or I grew up in the cold, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't have that, right? And so there is this kind of, we're one of the most religious areas in the country. And so you kind of do have this think of others first mentality that's in a lot of the people, the pool of who we're pulling from to hire. Yeah.
So it's a funny story. A customer would come into the store every once in a while, and he was from England somewhere. And he asked me, I was just kind of doing my own thing, and he's there, and he looked over at me, and he's like, I'm not going to do the accent because I'll just butcher it, but he's basically saying, you guys everybody in here is asking me, can they help me? He's like, is that a corporate thing? Is that like a corporate policy thing? And I was like, I was kind of vague because I didn't want it is like policy, but it's more cultural than policy. It's not like, hey, we're going to fire you. But ultimately, the expectation is that, everybody that comes through the door, we're going to offer, can we help? That's what we do. But for him, it was like, is this some kind of weird top-down thing.
Yeah.
And it did hit him. It's strange. Yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Very interesting. Yeah. So just to give a shout out to our community here.
That's right.
Keep raising your kids in churches. Come on, guys.
Good people. Yeah. Good people. Good Shreveport Bossier people.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Oh, we got to do shout outs real quick.
Yes.
And let me find my shout outs. Why don't you start with Ivy's?
Ivy's Building Materials Center, 3 locations, Mansfield, Halton, and now in Blanchard. Locally owned home center since 1969. We have hardware. We have lumber and building materials. Like if you're going to build a new house, we can help you with that. We are getting into installed sales. So it's an exciting new venture that we're working on. So flooring, doors and windows, and hopefully plumbing at some point. So be on the lookout for more news about that. We've been working really hard on it and are excited for what's to come.
Like it. And it goes into delighting your customers, right?
Absolutely.
Priority Roofing, locally owned, family ran. They specialize in residential and commercial roofing in our area. Repairs. A lot of roofing companies don't want to do repairs. We do repairs, replacements. No job's too small. 318-202-2123. Plumber for Hire, locally owned plumbing company specializing in residential and commercial plumbing. Small leak under the sink, or a massive sewage is coming back into the house, we'll take care of it. Recently bought a jetter, which is a big thing. Jetting. So if there's something that a small drain machine won't fix, we can take care of it with that. Give them a call, 318-709-9090. And then Clint Davis Counseling, helping people make lasting internal change for external growth and success. Just a great business in our area to help people that are going through things and want to become better. 318-562-6903.
Great stuff, man. So delighting your customers is going to live with me this week and hopefully for the rest of my life. And also one more shout out to Henry Hayes Johnson, laid to rest today in a much better place. One monkey doesn't stop the show.
No, it doesn't.
Thanks, man.